Okay, hi everyone. I'll be presenting our paper on multi-party computation custody for digital assets. And these are my co-authors and I. Patient is joining us remotely, Dr. Java Xu and Yebo Feng. We often see headlines such as this, hack after hack, in different regions, in Italy, in Asia, in Europe, and everywhere. And it becomes an increasing phenomenon. However, with each of these attacks, while they might have various root causes, and some might be due to negligence, there is a need to further find out the reasons for this attack. And while there are most of these attacks are on custody systems or systems where funds are aggregated to one wallet, we also need to investigate the reasons for this. And looking at some of these attacks, we see like the earliest notable one happened in 2011, but like even in 2023, we still have wallet attacks, and the aggregated amount of attacks has gone beyond $2.4 billion, which is without adding DeFi attacks or attack on bridging protocols, which also have custody systems.
So how do you identify, you separate legitimate attacks from management wrongdoing or negligence?
Okay, so to separate legitimate attacks from wrongdoing or negligence, most times we have protocols which analyze wallet attacks and try and find out the root cause. If it was due to, because some of them have to do with like server exploitation, and some other ones are phishing attacks, like maybe they just clicked on the link and then malware was sent to the systems. But most times it's wallet analyst systems that detect, but some are really not clear. Like some are not clear because some would be attacks on the server, some are revealing of the seed phrases, but others are like more complicated attacks, as we would see later on in the slide.
So in your study, you will not separate these two, or you will?
Oh, no. In our study includes a survey. It's actually another paper I'm working on with Java, and it includes a survey of all the attacks where each of them are separated by the root cause, the network level as well, attacks on the protocols, but also attacks on the network as well. So it's going to be separated.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, this I guess it's just as mentioned here, it's just the motivation of the current.
So when we look at custody systems and institutional custody providers out there, such as Copper, Fireblock, and Metaco, we see that some of them offer MPC, multi-party computation, and others offer multi-signatory systems for the security systems. But in general, despite all the security implementations put in place, there are also wallet compromises in some of these systems. And looking at like a motivation and for proposing this wallet, none of these wallet custody providers are streamlined to the wealth management industry. Most of them work with maybe large corporations like banks or fintechs. But despite all of this, these are some of the problems we identified in and reasons to develop this solution. So the first major one is lack of any streamlined wallet solution, which is, by streamlined, I mean suited perfectly to the wealth management industry, whereby a client has a wallet and the wealth manager has a wallet, an associated wallet as well. Furthermore, there's lack of anonymity and privacy in blockchain transactions in the world, and especially in industries like the wealth management industry, where there's sensitivity of financial data. Then also the traditional wallets which do multi-signatory transactions, multi-sig wallets, are mostly on a certain chain, i.e. maybe on the Ethereum blockchain. And also for those wallets, key recovery may be difficult or not as simplified as using multi-party computation. And in terms of the methodology, so in doing this study and going back to some of the institutional custody providers, a lot of this is not open source. Because of the sensitivity of the industry and the fact that in the industry, most of these companies which provide a form of custody provision do not share the data on like how they came about, or like the data on like the system security. So in doing the methodology for this research, it was hard to do or difficult to do a comparative analysis, and more or less how we would be analyzing the security of our solution is two-way. The first which would be simulation attacks with agent-based modeling to analyze common threats and attacks. And I should also mention that while multi-party computation is quite an efficient cryptographic algorithm, it's also susceptible to attacks such as the missing range proof attacks and the small Palais attacks. And for the missing range proof attacks, it attacks the key shards and it generates the master key from attacking an individual key shard. While for the small Palais attack, it attacks the MPC server and finds the key. So we would also be employing performance analysis, and we would have a Bloom filter aggregated to the multi-party computation for privacy and benchmark the solution as well. So looking at the proposed solution, the two main algorithms and data systems we use. So the first is the multi-party computation, which computes individual key shards without revealing the key shards to any of the participants. And this is very applicable for our case, because in the wealth management industry, or in trying to replicate the wealth management industry on chain, we would want every wealth manager to have an associated private and associated key with a client. In a way, it is hierarchical deterministic. And also, on the other hand, we have a Bloom filter, which is a data efficient, which is an efficient data structure, a probabilistic data structure, which helps us hide the public key of the clients when signing transactions. So when we aggregate both solutions, which includes MPC for safe key sharing, and it's going to be blockchain agnostic and user anonymity with Bloom filter, we have an architecture which looks kind of like this. And in this architecture, the overall diagram shows the application system, the platform, integrations with centralized exchanges, as well as the blockchain relayer and indexing system to create a blockchain and also broadcast transactions. But in our wallet solution, we're trying to combine both the MPC server and the Bloom filter in a way that per transaction, each transaction goes through the Bloom filter, which is then broadcasted. And also each key share would compute functions together in order to sign a transaction. And so one thing worth mentioning is that, as seen in the methodology, it's quite it's difficult to benchmark this solution against existing solutions in the existing MPC solutions. The most ideal way, because a lot of them are not open source, like looking at the custody providers, but the most efficient way is to do a simulation test. And we started with a performance analysis test where we have an aggregated MPC, an open source MPC protocol with the Bloom filter algorithm, which we choose to use. And these are some of the time factors, or how long it takes for the key, from key share generation to Bloom filter extraction. And this is also in line, this is also, when compared with the industry, it's good, but we would also do a cumulative, a more robust testing after we do like the agent-based modeling. So looking at how the transaction happens and some of the components. So when the wealth manager signs a transaction, it is then sent to the custody system. And when it's sent to the custody system, a Bloom filter is generated, and the MPC collects local signatures of the wealth manager. And when it goes into the Bloom filter, it also hides the public key of the client for security. Then we also see that this then, when the signatures are computed together, it helps with security, because each client, the threat on each individual private key share is less compared to other systems like multi-sig, where each key is liable to attacks. So in cases where the client has not given his approval or loses his or her private key, there are easy key recovery methods, and then it comes back to the system to say the client has not given his approval. And then just to zoom in to see what actually happens between the backend and the custody system. As earlier said before, the client and the wealth manager sign the transaction locally, and the Bloom filter is generated. And then a single signature is generated with the MPC shards and the Bloom filter. Afterwards, we verify the transactions using the Bloom filter. And then just as an overview of the whole system. So this solution came about for various reasons. First of all, it's streamlined for the wealth management industry, and also the attacks on recent MPC algorithms. So the intention is to have a secure and private wealth management solution, which is blockchain agnostic and is also resistant to new MPC attacks, which attack the MPC key shards and the MPC signing protocol. And in terms of where the work is so far, so we have a performance analysis with an aggregated Bloom filter and MPC solution, but then we need to extend on the security evaluation, as stated before, to do agent-based modeling and performance analysis. And the goal is really to get it published to an A-star journal. We have a submission later on this month, and we're also working towards getting it across the line. But also, after publishing it to an A-star journal and getting feedback, we would also like to build the proof of concept, as we feel it leverages off some of the shortcomings of other blockchain solutions. And also in the future, we'd like to also integrate it with ZK proofs for additional privacy, and also account abstraction for wallet for the recovery. But right now, because account abstraction is not blockchain agnostic, we would use the MPC for key recovery. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I think I rushed it too much, but we could always go back and.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question. You mentioned agent-based modeling. How would you model are you going to model the attack? And what assumptions would you make with the model? Especially what agents would you include and the underlying assumptions?
Yeah, so in terms of agent-based modeling, we'll have to create an environment whereby the attack could be tested, and some of the agents would be the wealth manager, the client, as well as the key shards. But in terms of the attacks, because the attacks are very new attacks, both the salient. Sorry, one second. Most attacks are very new attacks. It would be quite interesting. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but
No.
no.
Not at all. Okay.
Yeah. So
what agents would you have in the agent-based modeling environment? That's the first question. Second question is, what underlying assumptions would you have for those agents?
Okay. So in terms of the agents, we would have the agents in
You mentioned the wealth.
yeah, the wealth manager,
Yeah.
and the clients, and also the malicious actor.
The attackers.
Yeah, the attackers. And in terms of assumptions we would make in order to test, like for the missing range proof attack, which attacks the MPC server, we would have to assume that the attacker has details of, because for one of these attacks, a key shard is used to generate the private key. So assume that the attacker has access to the key shard. That's one of the assumptions we'll make. But then I must mention that a lot of this would be, there is need to do more work in respect to that.
And how would the simulation demonstrate that the proposed solution will be able to mitigate the attacks?
Okay, so for the simulation to demonstrate that the proposed solution will be able to mitigate the attacks, then we'll need to initiate the attacks. We'll need to initiate the signing process and the attacks simultaneously, because for the missing range proof attacks, I think for the small Pele attack, it attacks the network, it attacks the protocol during key generation. So we'll need to simulate those two events happening simultaneously.
I think Pashan has something to say. Let's see. You raise his hand. You could probably allow him to speak. Let's see. Yes, he's allowed.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just trying to answer Java's question. I think Yimika answered it as well. So we'll simulate the adversaries in the attack. So what adversaries do is so when the participants they sign individual transactions and at the end all the transactions are collected. So what the adversary can do is it can wait for the signatures, all the participants to complete the signatures, and using the algorithm, the attack that one of the papers they suggested, they can generate the private key from all the partial signatures that all the parties do. So the adversary will be one of the agents, and it will be able to collect all the signatures and at the end generate the key. And so the open source solution that we are using, it already has some of the code changes that prevent this attack. So during the simulation, we'll verify that this code change actually works by using the simulation environment. So yeah, that's the idea, and yeah, that's how we'll want to ensure that this attack actually this solution actually works.